for this next part here, I'm going to play a video that talks about artificial intelligence. It's a viral video called "Humans Need Not Apply." I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play a part of it. And specifically, they talk about creative jobs. So I'm going to segue that into a couple of new companies that are, San Francisco-based companies that are using AI to create music that are going to be competing with traditional music houses and the kinds of jobs that you guys are doing. So let's take a look at this.
Every human used to have to hunt or gather to survive, but humans are smartly lazy, so we made tools to make our work easier. From sticks to plows to tractors, we've gone from everyone needing to make food to modern agriculture with almost no one needing to make food. And yet, we still have abundance. Of course, it's not just farming, it's everything. We've spent the last several thousand years building tools to reduce physical labor of all kinds. These are mechanical muscles, stronger, more reliable, and more tireless than human muscles ever could be. And that's a good thing. Replacing human labor with mechanical muscles frees people to specialize, and that leaves everyone better off, even those still doing physical labor. This is how economies grow and standards of living rise. Some people have specialized to be programmers and engineers whose job is to build mechanical minds. Just as mechanical muscles made human labor less in demand, so are mechanical minds making human brain labor less in demand. This is an economic revolution. You may think we've been here before, but we haven't. This time is different. When you think of automation, you probably think of this: giant, custom-built, expensive, efficient, but really dumb robots blind to the world and their own work. They were a scary kind of automation, but they haven't taken over the world because they're only cost-effective in narrow situations. But they're the old kind of automation. This is the new kind. Meet Baxter. Unlike these things, which require skilled operators and technicians and millions of dollars, Baxter has vision and can learn what you want him to do by watching you do it. And he costs less than the average annual salary of a human worker. Unlike his older brothers, he isn't pre-programmed for one specific job. He can do whatever work is within the reach of his arms. Baxter is what might be thought of as a general-purpose robot, and general purpose is a big deal. So professionals, white-collar workers, and low-skill workers all have things to worry about from automation. But perhaps you are unfazed because you're a special creative snowflake. Well, guess what? You're not that special. Creativity may feel like magic, but it isn't. The brain is a complicated machine, perhaps the most complicated machine in the whole universe, but that hasn't stopped us from trying to simulate it. There is this notion that just as mechanical muscles allowed us to move into thinking jobs, that mechanical minds will allow us to move into creative work. But even if we assume the human mind is magically creative, it's not, but just for the sake of argument, artistic creativity isn't what the majority of jobs depend on. The number of writers and poets and directors and actors and artists who actually make a living doing their work is a tiny, tiny portion of the labor force. And given that these are professions dependent on popularity, they'll always be a very small portion of the population. There can't be such a thing as a poem and painting-based economy. Oh, by the way, this music in the background that you're listening to, it was written by a bot. Her name is Emily Howell, and she can write an infinite amount of new music all day for free. And people can't tell the difference between her and human composers when put to a blind test. Talking about artificial creativity gets weird fast. What does that even mean? But nonetheless, it's a developing field. People used to think that playing chess was a uniquely creative human skill that machines could never do, right up until the point they beat the best of us. And so it will go for all human talents.
Melomix is the largest collection of computer-composed music in the world. Computers have finally learned to compose music, and Melomix is creating with them an original and endless catalog of professional quality music, an entire universe of completely new songs. They are available in audio formats like MP3 for your movies, as professional music scores for performances, or as XML files you can personalize to create brand new songs. Melomix apps and games empathize with you, adapting music to your way of life, your training pace, your way of driving, your location, even your gaming skills. The Melomix API allows developers to include all this music into their software. Fresh music, on demand. Because you love music and so do we. Now go, explore, listen, compose, and enjoy. Melomics, music for everybody, everything.
Amper is an artificial intelligence music technology that allows anyone to create unique and professional music for their content instantly with no experience required. So as long as you know the mood and the style of the music you want to convey, Amper can create this music synced to your content in a few seconds or less. We think that the future of music will be created through the collaboration between humans and AI, and that in everything we do as a company, we want that collaborative experience to propel the creative process forward. I think AI moving forward, whether it's in the creative or non-creative spaces, will help creators be more creative, be more effective, be more efficient, and will open up many, many doors to new opportunities that we don't even know exist yet. We are enabling millions and millions of people to express themselves and express their creativity in ways that historically have been impossible without years of training, thousands of dollars in equipment, and then certainly a whole host of experience and time to practice the art. And when we can lower that bar to say that you have a vision, whether you're a professional video creator, whether you make indie games, whether you're someone who just likes to be creative by yourself, Amper's able to say, look, we want to be that partner with you to help you express your creative vision fully and accurately and easily, because we can be that collaborator, that tool that lets you be most successful and bring happiness to your life. I'm Drew Silverstein, co-founder and CEO of Amper Music.
I wish I could see beyond what I can see. I wish I could touch beyond what I can touch. I wish I could feel beyond what isn't real. I wish I could imagine, yeah. There's more to who we are. There's more to what we could be. As I feel the weight of being, I'm learning how to break free. I'm breaking free. I'm breaking down, breaking free.
All right, so that backing track that you just heard was composed by Amper Music. And that artist, I think her name is Tareen or something like that, wrote the top line on it. So I'm just curious, after seeing this video and seeing what currently exists and what is just around the corner for all of us, what you guys think of this, and how how are we best prepared to work with AI and in some ways compete with it?
I think I'm going to go home and find a robot to do my job and make it real easy. No, I think it's funny watching that. If we're already there in my mind, where I go to the studio, I have producers and writers who I collaborate with, and there's so many tools available that are just sort of pre-existing sound bites that are just amassed by creative people. You guys know this. It's how producers work now. There used to be a day where a guy sat in a room with a bass guitar and he figured out some ways to make it sound not like a bass guitar. Now if you're putting a song together, you have all that information sitting on some hosting site and you're just putting it together and you don't have to create the original sound. So my thought is with AI tied to the creation of music, the playing field is going to be the same for everybody. We'll all have access to the same tools, and like anything else in life, the most creative person will use it in the best and most interesting way. The average person could make a pretty good sounding backing track like that. Sounds like a pretty good backing track, nothing I haven't heard before. But it'll take somebody really special to do it, to take it and make it interesting and better than the rest of the world would do it. So I think you're just going to still need a highly skilled creative person in any, you could be cooking or making a song, it doesn't matter. I think they're just going to serve up the information to you, and then there has to be some magic and inspiration happening there. So that may be just the human in me, but I feel like enough is existed before to tell me that that's again how it's gonna play out.
I mean, I think there's two conversations. Conversation one is artificial intelligence. Is that a part of our lives? Will it be a growing part of our lives? Absolutely, yes. The second conversation is how does that relate to us as creators? And I actually think what Gregg said is 100% true, and I'm going to give him a big compliment on top of it. So you should record this. You should record this.
Hold on a second.
He's a very handsome man. He's an intelligent man.
Wait, rewind that. For a
okay.
second.
No, we've known each other a long time. So Gregg was a part of producing a record by Five for Fighting years ago, and it's apropos to everybody sitting here because the song transformed the country after 9/11. There isn't artificial intelligence that can create a moment that captures a time and a place and the emotion that the record that he made with John Ondrasik, what it did for people. And so we see artificial intelligence and it freaks us out. And in some ways it should. But to your point, it's there to augment what we're doing. There are some realities to it. If you need legal advice and you know that artificial intelligence is going to give you 90% precision legal advice and a human being who went to law school will give you 70%, I know who I'm going to go to for advice. And if I have a medical condition and I know that a nurse can give me 75% really good medical advice, but IBM Watson is going to give me 99% on point medical advice, I'm going to go to Watson, right? We all agree to that? Yes? So what it really comes down to is, can you replace artists? And you can't. And I will fight until I die, and maybe I'll be the only one left to say that that painting that Gregg helped capture during a very particular time in the world can never be replicated. Just like I listen to hip hop records that reflect a certain time, like Bad and Bougie will not be made out of computers. It just won't, because there's so much built into the African American experience in hip hop culture that how on earth is like, I'm sorry, and I'm not saying this to make stereotypes, but whether it's a rock record or Greta Van Fleet or whether it's Migos, you cannot manufacture the dust in a rehearsal space in Boston, or whose girlfriend broke up and had stress and tension which caused that conflict, which prompted the creativity that gave birth to that record. So I'm saying it from the most romantic place, which ultimately you have to be to withstand the music industry, that this is all really cool, but nobody can replicate what Gregg helped create on that day. And in the same way, your obligation, if you want to be in this space, is to make sure that you are not solely relying on derivative inspiration, but speaking from the most uncomfortable places in your human being self, and allowing that to dictate what you write and what you sing and what you produce. If you do that, this is going to be a great additive to your life experience in music. If you don't, then, go be a great programmer and get out of the way for the rest of us who want to create art.
You'll need a human to make it human, basically.
What?
So you always need a human to make it human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I would just say that, listening to this stuff, the instrumental stuff specifically, that would worry me because, I couldn't tell until they said, that it was a computer-composed track, that it was a computer-composed track. But I do think, even if AI kind of takes over or insinuates itself more into the creative space for making songs, I still think there's an element of even just the listeners who they want to know that it was a human that made it. They want to know the story. one of my great joys, with listening to songs is like looking up the story. How did this come to be? Why did this person write this song? I know a lot of people don't do that, but maybe in the future it'll be something like, this is slap a sticker on it, 100% verified human song. I think that's a possibility that it may come to that, but yeah, I mean, to your point, you need a human behind it to be human, and the reason that is that way is because we're not perfect. So I think everybody who makes great records probably wishes it could be like a little better, and so I think that that's something that maybe translates that, it's not going to be this, cookie cutter, perfect, flawless, piece like the ones they were just playing. But it's a little scary, but I do think that authenticity of human experience is something that you can't really replace, particularly when it comes to making art. And I think that we're going to be just fine.
I enjoyed hearing what you guys had to say about that, especially, and thank you for bringing up, the Five for Fighting song, Superman, because I didn't necessarily want to bring it up, but I was, definitely aware of it, and it really was, special, especially for this school, because this was, right after this school was built, this was ground zero, and this is where the first responders were. So, these kids weren't alive yet. Yeah. So anyway, I think that wraps up our session for today. We got to let these guys get back to work and write some more hit songs. So thank you all, all of you for being here. It really meant a lot to the school. It meant a lot to the Songwriters Hall of Fame. It meant a lot to me, to meet all of you, and I enjoy your music very much. So a big round of applause for these guys.